Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, December 2nd meeting of the Norton Planning Board. The public is welcome to participate in person or remotely. We are here in person at the Norton Town Hall at 72 East Main Street in the Crane Room, and you can also join online via the link in the agenda. Please feel free to email any questions before the meeting to town staff as listed in the agenda. I will call this meeting to order. We have 5 members in person and 1 member, Eric Norris, remote. We have Rob Welsh, Tim Griffin, myself, Alan Boulay, Steve Warshall, and Bridget Carr in person. We don't have any planning board business or policies to discuss at the time. I will pass down some bills for the group to go over, and we do not have any minutes this evening. First item, a little out of order on the agenda, is special permit 28 for 0 Sturdy Street. The owner applicant is Thomas Grossi. The applicant is looking to get a duplex on his property. This applicant is requesting a continuance to our January 6th meeting, 2026. So the chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Since we are all not in person, we'll do a roll call vote. Rob, how do you vote?
Aye.
Tim?
Yes.
I am a yes. Steve?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
And Eric?
Yes.
So special permit 28 for 0 Sturdy Street will be continued to January 6th. Next item on our agenda is the remand for special permit 30 for 0 Mansfield Avenue. The owner is Picern Home Builders LLC. The applicant is Allen and Majors Associates, Inc. The applicant is looking to construct 2 36-unit apartment buildings. This application was remanded to the planning board by the Bristol County Superior Court, and this was continued from our last meeting on November 18th. Mr. Jacoby, how are you, sir?
Good evening. Jack Jacoby, 144 Bank Street, Attleboro, representing the applicant. So tonight, we have our traffic expert, whose name was up there a minute ago.
Dan is up there. He's waving.
There he is, up in the upper right. So we're going to ask him to speak in a moment to give you the traffic update. With regard to traffic, the peer review came in today. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but I did get a chance to see it this afternoon. And I think it's safe to say that it raised no issues.
Correct. I can confirm
And
that. it's
there
an
were a
open-
couple of questions that were raised about just confirming sightlines and other things, and I'm going to ask Dan to respond to that. Second thing is we've updated the plans, and Phil Cordero is here from the engineering firm to show you what those updates are. And then lastly, I put together a memo, which I did file with you. Don't know if you've had a chance to read it, but I took my notes and I wrote down what I thought were the issues that the board raised that needed answers and issues that neighbors raised that needed answers. And so the last thing we'll do is that I'll go over that. And then at the end, we'll ask for a continuance. We are in front of the Conservation Commission on Monday to open the hearings with them. And so I'm going to probably suggest that unless there's a reason you want us back in 2 weeks, that we go to your January 6th meeting, because we want to make sure that the Conservation Commission doesn't have any changes that they request to the plans, because we certainly wouldn't want to have 2 competing sets of plans at the same time. So with that having been said, Dan, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can. Yes.
All right. For the record, my name is Daniel Lasivita. I'm a traffic engineer with Finasson Associates. We are the traffic consultants for the project. As was stated, I'm just going to kind of give you a brief update as to where we lie with the traffic analysis.
We lost you, Dan. Brian, is that on your end or is that his end?
It's showing up on Zoom that he has unmute, so.
Yeah, Dan, we completely lost you. Let's just give him a minute to reconnect.
When in doubt, turn it off and on again. Is that? It's not a joke. It's real.
Remember to ask me after the meeting, I'll tell it to you. It's actually pretty fun.
How's about that now? Can everyone hear me again?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, I apologize for that. Let's try this one more time, and I'll try not to touch any wires. So we performed an updated assessment that compared the traffic characteristics of the current development program of the project that is before you, which is 72 units, to those of the original development program that we had previously assessed. A couple of years ago now, at this point, I believe, we had completed a detailed traffic study or a transportation impact assessment that had done exactly that, that assessed the impact of the project on the surrounding transportation network, as well as provided recommendations relative to site access, site circulation, as well as potential off-site mitigation to address the impact of the project at intersections not directly next to the project site. That study was presented before this board, was peer reviewed by VHB, and was revised such that VHB had no outstanding comments, and that they were in general agreements with the conclusions and recommendations that came out of that original study. Similarly, this recent assessment we had completed was also peer reviewed by VHB. The assessment indicated that the 72 unit development would not result in significantly more traffic than the 60 unit development we had assessed. Again, and as was noted, VHB said that they were in general agreements that the increase in traffic was not anything significant, and that they were not requesting any additional operational analysis at this time as it relates to traffic. Just for context, the current development program is expected to generate between 4 to 6 additional peak hour vehicle trips over what was previously assessed, which is an increase in traffic of one new vehicle every between 10 to 15 minutes, which is not a significant increase in traffic that would be noticeable, and would not change the results of that previous analysis that we had completed. As such, we believe that the conclusions and recommendations of the initial peer-reviewed traffic study remain relevant for the current development program. Just relative to the couple of outstanding comments, mainly the one about the site distance that VHB had reviewed. The driveways have shifted slightly from what we had reviewed, but due to the flat and relatively straight nature of 140 by the project site, provided that whatever trimming of trees and vegetation that entirely happens within the project site or within the public right-of-way occurs, lines of sight pretty much anywhere along the frontage of the project site are going to meet, or in most cases vastly exceed, the recommended minimums for safe operation. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have, either about the study we just prepared or anything relative to traffic that's happened for this project.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
Yes, Rob, go ahead.
I'd like to ask if,
Yeah. Talk into the microphone.
just for clarification, you said the an additional 6 vehicle trips. Was that per day?
That was during the peak hours. So your weekday morning and weekday evening commuter peaks.
Okay.
It comes out to around 80 vehicle trips, 78 vehicle trips over the course of an entire day.
Okay, that number makes more sense to me. Okay.
78 in addition to,
78 in addition to what was assessed as a part of the previous
Thank you.
study, which brings the total to 530.
Yeah. In the report, it's 538 daily trips, half entering, half exiting, 45 during the morning peak hour and 52 during the weekday evening peak hour.
And I will also note that a vehicle trip, as it relates to this, is a one-way trip.
Correct.
So for the daily number, a vehicle that leaves in the morning to go to work counts as one trip, then comes home after work counts as two. So 530, 540 vehicles is around 260, 270 vehicles that leave and come back.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Eric, I'm going to go to you just to make sure you can still hear us and make sure you don't have any questions.
He's looking good, too.
No questions at the moment.
Thank you. Bridget, Steve, you good for now? Yeah, I'm okay. Dan, if you want to hang around for a little bit when we go to questions from the audience, maybe there might be one for you. We could tackle that at that time.
Will do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates. I have generally a short list to present, and then I'm happy to answer any questions for the planning board. Since our last meeting with the board, we actually received it just prior to the meeting with the board 2 weeks ago, the peer review from Pat Brennan, the town's consultant. I understand Pat's online in the event you need him this evening. But in the interstitial space between meetings, we provided a response package to Mr. Brennan's comments. He had a handful of technical related matters. We believe we satisfactorily had addressed those, and Mr. Brennan actually issued a letter to the board this afternoon identifying, in his words, and he can of course clarify, that we've addressed his comments that he had initially raised. Happy to walk the board through what we did, how we addressed them. They were all very technical in nature, but happy to present that information if you so chose this evening. We walked away from the meeting 2 weeks ago with a handful of requests for some information from the board that required a handful of minor changes to the site plans. These were also factored into the plans that were submitted through the Norton Town portal to make sure they could be added to the record. First and foremost, we talked about parking spaces at the last meeting. We were asked to sign a couple of spaces in front of each of our buildings to be those high turnover delivery rideshare spaces. So we have done that. We have one space marked in front of each building, sort of proximate to the outside edge. Thank you, Paul, if you could bring up the plan. That's helpful. So for building one, which is on the left, the parking space is actually on the right side of the building. And then conversely for building two, which is the right building, that shared parking space is on the leftmost, proximate to the door, but sort of on the outskirts. So the residents have primary access to the preferential spaces along the line of the building. Also on this plan is we did have to note that there were electric car charging stations required under the code. So we have added those along the front of our site. And we've added those notationally in terms of two formats. So the stretch code requires that 20% of the total provided spaces be compatible with electric car charging stations, 10% required at initial occupancy, and the remaining 10% to be added should we have the expansion of need, so scalability. So we denoted the initial occupancy load for EV spaces as well as the future. Those collectively reach the 20% threshold, which is the code requirement. So we have those on the plans for you. We had a little bit of a discussion about snow storage during the last meeting, and we acknowledged to the board we have limited area for snow storage. So we wanted to make sure on the plans we did memorialize the intent that I verbalized, which is if we run out of capacity, we would have to remove it from the site in accordance with Mass DEP's snow removal policy. So Attorney Jacoby put that language in his letter. We made sure that the snow disposal guidance is in our operation and maintenance plan, which is in my response letter, in addition to the original submission package. And we also added that notation to the plan, so it does exist and can run with the property with the approved plans that hopefully this board ultimately chooses to approve. So we've added that notational requirement to make sure we're taking care of our site. In no case does snow get stored at the entrances. It can't block those sight lines which came up during the VHB review, and certainly we can't pour it into the wetlands, which we'll discuss that with conservation at the opening to our meeting next week. The other question that was raised was really more of a confirmation. There was some concerns that the site driveways as proposed, we wanted to ensure that those aligned with the preferential locations across 140. So there was a separate graphic. Paul, I apologize to make you jump around, but sheet, I believe it's C103, was a separate graphic that we thought best highlighted how the driveways align with the existing conditions. It would look like this.
Yeah.
That's okay. So we'll wait for just a moment.
Just think we could all be doing this with 60 page packets of paper.
Wait, did I?
Are you looking to see if you got the right one?
It was in this packet. I must have, maybe I overshot it.
It was a separate file.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
separate
in a, it's
from
in a,
this.
yeah,
separate.
it's in a different.
So it was actually at the back of Jack's
That's,
letter.
okay, it was back, okay.
Yeah. Sorry. We'll look at Dan while we're waiting. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
It's page 11
I
of
can see
that
myself on
letter.
the big screen. I imagine I'm huge in the room.
You do have a large head on the screen here, yes.
He has a large head in real
You ever
life
seen Wizard
too,
of
so-
Oz? It's that effect.
I don't mean to build suspense, but obviously once the plan comes up, what you will find is that I guess the northerly entrance, we aligned it between 72 and 76. So the exit is 72 and 76 Mansfield Avenue, such that the exiting vehicles did not align with the residential house. There we go. So the driveway is intentionally focused so it straddles the property line between 72 and 76. And then on the right side, the southerlymost driveway, that is aligned with the center point of the bus parking land. So neither driveway aligns with residential property. So we addressed that headlight glare, which was a concern of the planning board. It may be more visible on your smaller screens. It's a little hard to see the lines on the projector image.
That one, oh, okay.
Okay. Just,
So that one actually is across from Produce Barn then. Can you slide him down, put him in front of Jim's? Okay, had to ask.
Okay.
And that's really about it from our end, from the engineering side. And I'm happy to field any questions the board may have as we continue.
Do we have any questions to the board for Mr. Cordero specifically to the site plan or anything that he can answer while he's standing and looking at us? Eric, I'm going to go to you again just to make sure.
I don't have any questions at the moment.
Thank you, sir. It appears we're good with you for now, Phil. Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Mr. Jacoby?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go over the things in my memo that we haven't talked about already. So the first thing is that you asked me to email the town manager as to whether it should be a deed restriction or a deed for the portion of Lot E. And I thought the appropriate way to do it was to send it to the planner, Paul, and have him discuss it rather than me trying to send the town manager 15 pages of plans and diagrams. And so the answer came back verbally to me tonight from Paul before the meeting started that the town manager would prefer the deed restriction as opposed to a deed. So we would continue to own it, maintain it, pay taxes on it, but we would work out the language with your town council to make sure it could never be built on or developed in any way, shape, or form. So that answers that one. The second thing was, and Paul, I don't know if you have the building elevation available, because you asked to see that. And while he's looking for that, I can move on. Oh, wait a minute, maybe he has it. Yeah, there was a second one that actually had the trees and all, but that we sent you later on this afternoon, so maybe in the portal, but this is.
It's right below it in OpenGov. It almost looks like a double file.
Okay, well, I can pull that up.
Weren't sure we were going to get the second one to you in time for the meeting tonight, so we went with what we had first thing in the morning, but then we were able to have our architect do a better job.
You did all that work, then we'll certainly look at it.
Yeah, I think it's the second one.
The 1:10 p.m. That one.
Yep.
Yeah. Ah, there it is. You can, so that, that's one building, and then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the second one. We wanted to reflect the fact that the wetlands behind are fairly wooded, and we think this does justice to that situation. Moving along, you had asked about.
One
Mr.
second.
Jacoby, just from a clarification perspective, this is showing the elevations. Is that from
Mansfield.
ground level from Mansfield Avenue?
Yes.
So from the existing grade of Mansfield Avenue up? Because I know we were filling and then the building's on top. Okay.
That is correct.
It doesn't account for, though, the tree plantings and everything along the road, obviously, right? We have plantings, do I remember on the landscaping plan there?
Yes, but
Yeah,
if those.
I'm just
if we
stating
put
that there's.
those, if we put
I
You lose
understand.
the
I'm
elevation aspect. No, I was just confirming
Just
with
putting
the
it out there
grade,
that
yeah.
there is trees and there is landscaping between the road. and the-
Absolutely.
yes.
But if you wanted to see what the building looked
No,
like.
I'm pointing out for
itself,
everyone else.
So, next thing was, you had asked about the parking in the front issue, and John Thomas sent an email, which we attached to our memo, which detailed the reasons why the Conservation Commission was particularly concerned with this. And I don't know that you need me to read that out loud. You all have it, but, and certainly that issue will come up again Monday when we talk with them to make sure that John is still reflecting the will of the Conservation Commission. Next, the nearest house on Reservoir Street, people asked about. And so we did have a plan that we submitted that showed that it was 373 feet across the wetlands and across Reservoir Street to get to the nearest house, which is more than a football field. And certainly there is vegetation there. The next issue, you wanted us to combine lots D and E, and I don't know that I want Paul to have to go back to it, but in this, it was attached in what I sent. It was also attached, it was also, I think, the third page of Phil's plans, where we left C by itself and we combined D and E into one lot and then show the area to be donated. So we did that. The next issue was section 175-15-6 of the Village Commercial Guidelines. And that section provides, in evaluating and rendering a decision on a proposed development plan, which requires site plan approval and/or a special permit, the planning board shall consider the degree to which the proposed development achieves the following objectives and may require conditions or modifications to the proposed site plan to ensure the objectives are fulfilled. I respectfully submit to you that these items in this section are not absolute requirements, but merely guidelines and factors to help guide the board in making a decision. Subsection B9 states, to the extent feasible, parking areas shall be located to the side or rear of structures. The qualifier to the extent feasible does not make this an absolute, but merely a general objective. As I said earlier, John Thomas has filed by email the reasoning of the Conservation Commission in requiring the parking areas to be located in front of the structures and farther away from the wetlands. So it is respectfully submitted that this is the reason that the words "to the extent feasible" is included, because it's a goal, but it's not an absolute. Subsection C, design, subsection 2A, is entitled Design in the Village Commercial District. It provides that development should preserve and enhance New England Village scale and character. Please note that the precatory word should is used rather than the mandatory word shall. This section goes on to state, to accomplish this objective, the following design guidelines should be observed. A, buildings. Buildings should be placed close to the road and sidewalk to encourage pedestrian traffic. Parking areas should be placed to the rear of the buildings. Again, respectfully noted that the word should is used and that these are guidelines. So I would submit to you that you, as a planning board, have the discretion to allow deviations from the guidelines where conditions so warrant, and that the Conservation Commission's concern about protecting the wetlands resources provides adequate and, I believe, compelling justification for locating the buildings away from Route 140. There were a number of issues raised by neighbors. The first one was, don't make Norton into Mansfield. It's unclear exactly what the neighbor was referring to with regard to the town of Mansfield. It seems like a fine community to me. But that does not reflect any of the special permit standards that this board is allowed or required to consider. The next thing was to make sure the traffic study reflects all new proposed projects, and my understanding is that it does, and your peer reviewer has concurred. The next one was 3-story buildings don't belong here. My understanding is there's a 3-story building now at 77 West Main Street, a proposed 4-story building at 61. But more importantly, your bylaw does not limit height by stories. Rather, it looks at the number of feet. In this case, the limit allowed by right is 35 feet. We are at 34.5 feet in height, so we are within the allowable limit.
That is correct.
The next issue was that the buildings are not in keeping with the neighborhood. I guess the first issue there is always to define the relevant neighborhood. With regard to the single-family homes across Reservoir Street, they're at least 373 feet away from the proposed project, and more importantly, with an extensive wooded wetland and the Reservoir Street in between. Those across Route 140, which you had just seen the plan, is a mixture of residential and commercial uses, including a gas station and a store, as well as single-family residences. We submit to you that 2 apartment buildings located on 9 acres is in keeping with the mix of uses in the area. Another neighbor suggested that we are developing to 10 times or 6 times the by right density. I would suggest to you that the word density appears in only one place in your bylaw, and that is found in the density bonus section 19.13. Other than that, Article 4 use regulations and Article 6 dimensional regulations do not contain a density requirement. Therefore, the calculations offered by this abutter do not apply. It also appears that he determined the likely number of single-family homes that would be allowed on these 12 acres and compared that to the number of apartments proposed. The relevant calculation is offered in 6.2, the table of dimensional density requirements. It provides that in the village commercial district, 24,000 square feet is required for any development of 3 or more units per building. So I would suggest to you that the density argument is a red herring. Also, some said that the sewer should be gravity, not force main. We are talking extensively with the water and sewer commissioners about this. I would suggest to you that that call in the end is theirs, and that we will comply with whatever their requirements are. Next one was that this does not satisfy any existing need. The 2021 master plan, adopted by this board, cites as Norton's vision for housing to increase and diversify Norton's housing supply, particularly for seniors, young families, and first-time homebuyers. We submit to you there is an existing need for apartments that would serve a diverse population, which would include seniors and young families. The master plan specifically provides that the town should allow for new kinds of housing. Goal 2.2 suggests build a range of market rate housing to meet the demands of young families, the senior population, and first-time homebuyers. I will point out to you that we have agreed to abide by your 10% requirement for affordability in this project. As I understand it, the town's housing shortage has been an increasing concern over recent years, and considerable effort has gone into revitalizing downtown. The proposed development would bring with it 72 new housing units, all of which would be located within walking distance of Library Square and the town common, an outcome that would certainly be socially and economically desirable to Norton's future. The property is located within the Village Commercial District, which was designed not only to increase housing, but also to help the town adapt in a way that helps the community to manage growth pressures and capture opportunities for economic development. According to the Norton Village Center study, the proposed development is just the type of residential housing that would help facilitate a walkable environment in the downtown. I would note that we are installing sidewalks along the entire frontage of the property and curving around onto a short portion of Reservoir. There's no doubt that there's an existing need for housing, not only here in Norton, but everywhere in the state. Massachusetts has among the highest home and rental prices of any state in the nation. The master plan presents the main missions for the town to achieve over the life of the plan, 5 to 10 years, and it rated the lack of diverse housing to be a high priority. We submit that this is the type of housing that is called for in the master plan. And if you see page 24 of the master plan, it explicitly calls for multifamily and townhouse construction in this district. That same neighbor also said that this would hurt local businesses. I find that to be exactly the opposite. If you add a larger universe of customers, it should help business, not hurt business. Adding 72 apartment dwellers should mean a positive for business rather than a negative. That same abutter also said that there would be detrimental effects on the neighborhood and environment. He didn't say what those were, and it's hard to respond to exactly what he's saying. He also said that housing is not socially or economically desirable. Again, this can't be farther from the truth. Housing is a basic need. Someone asked if blasting will be needed. The answer is no. And someone also said no one benefits from the sewer extension except for this project. And we were authorized by the Water and Sewer Commission to say to you that this extension of the sewer is in their master plan. They just don't have the funds to do it now. And so getting this done and being turned over to them is certainly in keeping with what they envision for sewer in the community. I had given you a number of $900,000 the last meeting because that was my memory from 2 years ago. Obviously, costs have risen. We are now looking at about 1.25 million to 1.5 million, depending on exactly which requirements the water and sewer commissioners give us, and that will be given to the town. And the last issue that I noted in my notes from last time was that Mansfield Avenue floods is claimed by a neighbor. And just to be clear, we are containing all of the water on our property. We are dealing with it on our property. So in the event that Mansfield Avenue floods now, our water will not be going there any longer, and we can't control water that comes across the street or from other properties, but we certainly can control ours. And as Phil told you, this was peer-reviewed, and the stormwater plan works and works well. So those are the things that I wanted to point out to you. Don't know if you have any questions for me.
I don't have any questions for you. I believe you crossed off everything that was on my list very well. I'll go to any members of the board. Any questions currently for?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And this is my own knowledge, even my answer might come from within the board. The difference between the forced sewer and the gravity and the master plan, wasn't there a restriction that people couldn't tie into a forced, or how did that work?
We can ask Mr. Cordero if he wants to speak it. The way I understand it to be a forced main you can tie into. They'll be leaving stubs, I believe, for every property to tie into. It's just an additional piece of equipment that's required to tie into it.
If
I think it may be tied to some of the discussions with Paul, and maybe you can answer this around like Elm Street and things where we're putting in lines that people can't tie in, and some of the nuances there is.
Right. Right. So first, if this is a privately funded line, there is no mandate to connect, except if your system fails. Title V says if the sewer is available, you can. Not an engineer, and there are circumstances where a force main, the pressure is so high that you're not going to tie a single family in unless that property owner, the single family property owner, puts a pump in to offset the pressure. It's easier to connect to gravity lines because the pressure is just not there. It's just simple flow. So it's just going to depend on the engineering. On a force main, you can tie into it, but it probably would be at a higher cost because you have to put the pump in. Gravity line, it would just be a relatively simple connection to that.
Yeah, I think
Paul,
the applicant touched on that last meeting, but
I was going to ask, the difference also between a gravity and a forced main would be the potential for future development, correct? Where a forced main is going to be at its limit pretty much where it stands with most development, including the tie-ins that are planned for it, but then expanding beyond what's there now would be limited.
Yeah, that I
compared to the
don't
gravity.
know.
Is that
not
true?
I think rather than me standing here, we should ask the experts to talk.
But the size of the line's going to make a big difference. But I don't know how the pumps will affect that issue.
Because
But
I'm just thinking of, like, if this is a key point of this project, the benefit comes from the potential of future development for the town.
Right. Just to weigh in, I won't profess to be a sewer expert either, but having a little more knowledge on the subject, Paul's homing right in on the matters. So the complexity is all centered around the hydraulics. And because it's a force main, in order to enter the force main, you need to involve pumps. We will have a pump station on our site. If any of the homeowners ultimately elect to tie into it, they will also need a pump. We are going with a small diameter force main to keep those pressures as low as possible within the line, which allows for easier connection. You still need a pump, but it's an easier connection. The bigger the line, the more capacity going through it, the harder it would be for a homeowner to tie into it rather than a developer such as this. In terms of the scalability for the town, it becomes a bit of a coordinated effort between when our pumps would be running or the largest demand user on the line, when those pumps would be running relative to what they foresee to be the future needs. the pumps can be synchronized to work with that growth. We can pump during off hours. We can pump at a different phasing schedule. There are hydraulic things that can be effected in the line to make it scalable for the town. So I guess what I would say, without talking myself into circles in front of the board, is that despite being a force main, it still has growth capabilities. You just have to consider what the pumping situation is on a case-by-case basis. That's all.
And again, just going forward, just trying to think of what would be the future development. I'm not thinking capacity for a couple more single-family homes. If we're putting sewer running up 140, the intention is almost certainly more commercial development of at least a reasonable and like level.
In those areas, zone, village, commercial, the market dynamics would change in this area probably significantly with having sewer there. Because
And
as
we
we know, a
wouldn't-
lot of these areas, they don't perk well. You're seeing it that some properties are vacant, and a lot of that's because how poor the soil is. You're right near the reservoir, so a sewer line would increase the development potential in this area.
And if this project were going to happen, we would want to aim for the maximum capacity that we could get going down for future development.
Yeah.
We don't want to stunt everything beyond this project.
So
I think that would be a lost opportunity if we did that.
So we do have a month in between for our next meeting, since we do know we are continuing tonight. Can we reach out to Water and Sewer? I'm sure they'll be
We're in touch.
continuing there.
Yep.
Correct. Maybe we can get a letter, we can get them to clarify, and we can address that at the next meeting.
Yeah, we had our initial meeting with them. They've already seen these plans from a couple of years ago. I met with them a couple of weeks ago to reintroduce the project, get their buy-in. We want to engage Weston and Sampson on your behalf to review it. So all of those things are starting to get in motion.
So given another month, if we have time, maybe a letter for them, or Paul can have a conversation with them, and we can address that specific issue of expansion in the future.
And I think, Steve, to your point is further, if we put in a forest main that starts at this property, what happens to properties beyond this site on 140? And can you expand a forest main backwards rather than just infill development?
Yes.
That's, I think, what you're asking, right?
I think the whole way along this line, one, the intention is to continue beyond this project. We're going to have it extend to here, and then hopefully continue extending up to the bridges, and then maybe someday cross the reservoir to the other side. So we have a whole loop. And everywhere along the entire village commercial area corridor would be sewered. That's ideal. Or if we want to keep that section of 140 as little single-family homes, there's no value in doing this sewer. We have one intention one way or another. We're either building and going kind of big, aiming for commercial development, or we're not. And that's a kind of a choice that this project hinges on. But we can't do it in a half-ass way. Pardon my language.
We do want to.
Paul, do you have any addition? Does that give you the color that you would need to ask Water and Sewer about that?
And this is the conversation I've been having with the superintendent. So he's aware of these issues, and we're on the same page. This is the same issue, as we're looking at, this opportunity's coming along here, but we're also looking, to expand sewer on 123 for these reasons, for certainly environmental, but also we're starting to see what the sewer line is potentially capable of, what it's leading to on 123. You've approved a few projects, different area here, obviously, than 123, but they had a sewer master plan that did talk about connecting all the way up to the existing sewer line at the shopping center. So this is a great opportunity, and we just need to see how we optimize it.
You good, Steve? For
Yeah,
now.
I guess so, yeah.
I don't know if Weston and Sampson or somebody would know off the top of their head, like with the pressures that this line would handle Like, is the pump that a single family homeowner, is that, what scale of a pump is that in terms of
Grinder pump, right?
cost and everything?
It's called a grinder pump,
Yeah.
and it's fairly common.
Yeah. But I'm sure they can give like okay, is it a $200 pump, a $2,000 pump, or a $20,000 pump? That we can get that from water and sewer, probably. I would expect. So
Yeah, it's probably better to get the answers from those who know rather than us
yeah,
speculating.
there's a big scale in
No, I'd let them be your
$7,000. Is the
But I also understand your point that we're going to put the sewer line in, we need to do it right. So that's all that we had to present tonight. So we'll sit down and listen.
Before we go for public comment, I would like to go to a couple people that are online. We have Pat Brennan, who is the town's peer reviewer. At the expense of the applicant, the town hires a professional engineer to review all the engineering plans and everything submitted as far as engineering, stormwater, et cetera, both for the planning board and conservation. None of us are engineers, so we rely on experts like Mr. Brennan to make sure everything's on the straight and narrow. Specifically, Mr. Brennan, how are you? We had multiple comments last meeting from abutters with flooding issues on their property, and I would like to put to rest or put to ease people's minds of this project worsening existing flooding concerns in neighbors' yards and neighboring properties. If you could address any of that, that'd be appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pat Brennan with PGB Engineering. As the chair mentioned, I did review the project for the board and the Conservation Commission. Mainly the stormwater was the focus of my review. And as Mr. Cordero mentioned, I submitted a letter back mid-November with some comments. Mr. Cordero revised the plans, sent them back to me with the revisions that I had asked for to address my comments. But the main thing with the stormwater, both the state regulations as well as the Norton Stormwater Management Bylaw requires that any development keep the runoff from their property at or below existing conditions. So you cannot have additional flow off of a property either into the roadway or onto abutting properties than what exists today. And that's why we have these detention infiltration basins to hold that stormwater, infiltrate it back into the ground, and maintain it on site. The calculations do show that this project will maintain everything at or below existing conditions in terms of runoff off-site. So they do comply with both the Mass DEP stormwater standards and the Norton Stormwater Bylaw. So, you know, if there's existing flooding issues today, I think Mr. Cordero mentioned this as well, this project is not going to solve those problems, but it's not going to worsen them. It will, they will be mitigating any runoff from their site and keeping it on their site. And I think that's just the summary, and I'd be happy to answer any more specific questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Brennan? I don't.
I'm good, thanks.
Tim?
I was and Mr. Brennan, they've addressed all of your substantive comments to this point in terms of I know a lot of it gets into adding notations on the plan that don't materially affect the design, but from your perspective, they've met all of your requirements.
Yes, they have at this point.
Thank you, sir. If you could hang out just for a few more minutes, I'm going to go to comment for the public. We might need you or, thank you. Unless the board have any questions, I'm going to go to members of the public for a public comment. I would ask anyone online, if you would like to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand. And we have members here in public that are going to speak also. We will go back and forth between in the room and online if so needed. You're up, sir. Please name and address for the record.
Bill Rotundi, 17 Reservoir Street. Couple questions, not being a contractor in any way. Can you put the picture of
The color one?
the kind of the site where it showed the driveways and whatnot?
The elevation.
Yeah.
I think it was elevation.
I've got the elevation. You want, Bill, you want the driveway?
Yeah, the driveways, just to ask a clarifying question.
Okay,
Not the elevation.
That was in the letter file.
yeah. Where did I? Nope, that's not it. Yeah.
I don't know. Let me see.
Oh, here we go. Coming right up
Bear with us, it takes a minute to
to
get them
find it.
loaded and find it.
I don't know why it's come on.
But here it is.
So, what the gentleman just said was, the improvements aren't going to change water flow that's any worse than it currently is, if I have that right.
Correct.
So, a couple of clarifying points. One, your apples and oranges, because you're raising it 5 feet. So to raise it 5 feet, you're now causing different runoff than you would have at the flat surface that it is.
They
Apples
need
and
to
oranges.
account for that. Yeah.
So as the driveway hits 140, are there catch basins there? Because you're going to have a hill going down. Slight hill, but you're still going to have a hill. And that's where the flooding is going to occur, is the water coming down the hill into the road, if you're not catching it at that point. And that's what happens across the street at the produce barn, is the water goes down the parking lot of the produce barn, causes a flood right there. So how are you catching that water? Not quite understanding that. So that's point number one. Point number two, and I haven't done my homework. How long is each building? Roughly.
I don't have it in my head.
It's just I have so many things.
Yeah.
It changed, so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't have it off the top of my head either.
I got too many numbers.
He's getting it right now, I think.
Well, this might not have the numbers on it, but put it up there. This is the elevation.
It's a race. Let's see who finds it first.
Yeah. This is not really answering Bill's question, I don't think.
Would it be on the plans?
It's
It's
going to be on
gonna
the
be
plans.
buried somewhere in a plan.
Plus or minus 220. Thank
Each
you, Phil.
building.
20 each building.
That's about what I
So-
was getting to. Yeah.
So
Gotta be one of those numbers.
220 feet, 3 stories plus a roof. I'm going to go back to doesn't fit the neighborhood. If I'm walking down the street here and all I see is a building and I'm walking for 220 feet, all I see is a ginormous building, 3 stories plus a roof high. How does that fit into the neighborhood? I don't see it. I'm not against housing, truly not. And there's probably a need for housing. This is not fitting into the character that is that section. And if you go back to the picture, the majority of the building is equal to the tree line, tree height. It's an enormous, no offense to the developer, eyesore. Too big for the area, but thank you.
I'll get you your answer for the runoff. Phil, do you want to address his first question?
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So I would just want to clarify, the gentleman asked the question about the runoff, but before I get to that, just to identify, I don't want to get too deep into numbers, but Mansfield Avenue is generally 122, 121 in terms of elevation. These buildings respectively from right to left are 124 and 123.9. So the building is only elevated from the street level a couple of feet overall. I think the gentleman mentioned 5 to 6 feet, so that's a misnomer. We are elevated above the street, but not to that degree. But what we have done is in both of the driveways, what we do is we have to hold by design standards the gutter line of the primary street to make sure we are not taking their flow, and then conversely that we are not giving flow to them. So we hold the gutter line, we create a slight rise in the driveway, and then divot down. And in that divot, we have catch basins inside each of our driveways to prevent any runoff from our site from ever reaching Mansfield Avenue. And then the internal parking lot is certainly graded and sloped that it'll go to other catch basins on site. But each of those driveways is specifically crafted to prevent that runoff condition that is a concern. So as Mr. Brennan mentioned, as Attorney Jacoby mentioned, the stormwater management standards require that we don't add additional flow to the discharge areas. So in this case, our discharge area is the street, it's also the wetlands. So our calculations have to prove that out, and we believe that's what we've done here.
And
Bill, does that,
yeah, I think, Paul, to the second question, I think I looked it up, and I think Norton adopted the stormwater management bylaw in like 2016 or so. Does that sound about right?
I think so.
So anything that predates that predates the rules around it, basically.
Right.
Produce barn would certainly qualify for.
predating?
Yeah.
The other folks too, it's very clear too, MassDOT also has a role in this. MassDOT doesn't want to accept additional drainage into their systems either. So it really is an additional mandate beyond the town of Norton bylaws that we have to handle our own stormwater as well.
Thank you, Phil.
Sure.
Question. You had said,
Rob.
I thought I did hear previously that you guys were elevating the lot. It was 5 feet. You're saying that's only 2 feet?
Right, so the buildings, so if the left building, Building A, the first floor of that building is 123.9, and the street grade at the driveway is 121, so about 2.9 feet. And then on Building 2, we're at 124, and the street grade there is 122. So we are elevating up, but that delta is about 2 feet.
Is maybe the previous number from the existing grade of the site? Is it below street level right now?
So that is perhaps the case. What happens is the site, there's a shelf off the shoulder of the highway, and then it drops down towards the wetlands. So you might be confusing what we're filling on site to get to these elevations versus the elevation above street grade. So that could be the disconnect. Good point.
So if I'm driving down the street, forgive me, I don't know all the technical things.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. If I'm walking down the street, the embankment going up from there is only going to go up 2 feet. It's
only-
not going to go up 5 feet.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, the plank's fine. I just,
Right, but just the native vertical difference is we're going up 2 feet,
Okay.
and then we're screening with the landscaping.
I had actually believed up to now there'd be a 5-foot embankment going up from the
No,
street.
no,
I think,
that's,
like Tim said, I think we did discuss, or it might have been said 5 feet of fill or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Possibly, might be where the confusion is.
right, exactly. Just simplistically, the site is going down, we're gonna lift up, but we're only 2 feet above Mansfield. If I'm Mansfield Avenue, that 5 feet could have been referenced to the filling above the existing grade, which we do have to do filling because of the high water table out here. That is a core component to making the stormwater systems work and the separations, and Mr. Brennan can attest to that. I'm sure he reviewed it as part of his peer review.
And that's not 2 feet just in the width of the driveway. That's 2 feet from the road all the way to the building.
Well, it's wherever we have structural stormwater, we need to have that separation. But obviously, because we do everything stormwater gravity-wise, that critical depth is held, and it controls the rest of the site, and the site elevates to flow to that low point. That's
Yeah.
right.
I had understood this to mean going up to where it levels off and it becomes a flat parking lot. You know, so if that's only 2 feet, that's interesting because I had thought differently. So thanks for the clarification.
No, happy to answer. We just don't want to send anybody off with a false image.
Math to 5 I can do.
As long as it's within our fingers, we're good.
Yeah, pretty
I was
much.
going to say go up to 10 because you have the 10 fingers, but that's about it. Anyways, okay, happy to answer anything else.
No, thank you.
Any other members of the board for stormwater or site questions? If not, we do have Town Council Robin Stein on, and I was gonna ask her a question for the public's edification and also for the boards if he's available.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, how are you?
Doing well. Good to see you all.
I was gonna ask you, this is obviously a remand, this has already been in land court. I would like, if you could, in general, or maybe not specifically to this project, how a planning board can deny a project as we did before. What are the standards that a board could hang their hat on that we could actually issue a denial and denial be held up in land court, which is we know, a very high standard. If you get my gist of the question, to explain to people how, I guess I want to say, we have a lot of perceived power, as planning board does, but we actually don't have as much leeway in approving things, I think, as a lot of people think. If you were able to understand my question and explain that a little bit, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. And I think I get your question. And I mean, obviously, every case is fact specific, but generally speaking, we're talking about, special permits and site plan approval in this case. So it's two different types of permits. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Yep.
Okay. So site plan approval is generally what we call a non-discretionary review. It's a type of review that rarely, if ever, can be denied. It really is, like it sounds, you're approving the site, like the use of the site, how the project uses the site. And so that is a review that, absent extremely significant, say, public health or safety reasons, you could not deny a project. That's about mitigating for potential externalities and damages and things like that. But it is a non-discretionary review. A special permit is a discretionary review, so you have more ability to deny a special permit. However, your review is limited to the requirements and the provisions of the town zoning bylaw. So you don't have an unfettered ability to just say, hey, we don't like this project, or we don't want this use on this property, and issue a denial. In order for me to be able to have any chance of defending the denial in court, the reasons for the denial need to be grounded in your bylaw. They need to be of merit, and they need to be, in my opinion, concerns that cannot be readily and adequately mitigated. So if there's a pretty easy solution to a concern, it's going to be harder to defend a denial on that basis. But it is a discretionary review, so there is some ability to deny, but it is it is related to the scope of your charge in reviewing the project itself.
Any members of the board wish to ask Robin a question as it pertains to our powers of this review while we have her on?
Thought that was clear as hell.
Thank you, Robin. Appreciate that. We'll talk in a little
course.
bit. I don't see anyone's hand raised on the Zoom. If anyone on Zoom wishes to speak, if you raise your hand virtually, we will go to you. If not, I'll go to the public. I don't see anyone rushing up to the microphone as of yet. As we stated before, the applicant has asked, we will be continuing this to January 6th as they progress through the application with conservation. And in that time, we will get a little bit more clarification on the sewer for everybody, the boards and the public's information. Mr. Jacoby, anything else you would like to bring up tonight?
No, I think you've accurately stated it. We need to work with the Conservation Commission and with the sewer commissioners and be back to you in a month.
So would you entertain a motion?
Yes, sir.
Motion to continue this to, was it January 6th?
So we have a motion by Rob to continue the remand special permit 30 for 0 Mansfield Ave to January 6th. Do we have a second?
Second.
And just to clarify, will that be at 7:15 in the same room?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You gonna come see us?
If you would like me to. Or by Zoom, whichever you prefer.
Whenever town council's on, we have to be very specific when we continue to
Yeah.
a time and date certain.
And date
I
certain.
understand.
So we do have a motion and a second, and I will do a roll call vote. Rob, how do you vote on the
Yes.
continuance?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
I am a yes. Steve?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
And Eric?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That's a continuation of special permit 30 to January 6th. See you then.
Thank you.
You too.
as well.
Also,
Holidays.
even though that's kind of depressing.
What's 2026 is around the corner.
I like to think they're happy.
The next item on our agenda is one of the reasons why town council is here tonight. The board is going to be going into executive session in a minute. So what we're going to have to do is clear this room, and we're going to be shutting the Zoom off and kicking everybody off of Zoom. That's not a board member. So Eric will stay on Zoom. Town council will stay on Zoom. We are going to kick everybody else off. I do have a little bit of something to
Well,
read
you don't
before
need,
we do
you
that.
don't need to come out until after you actually
Correct.
have your declaration, motion, your vote, though. So folks can stay to watch that.
Correct. I'm doing that right now. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy relating to pending litigation known as Premier Fence LLC versus Town of Norton Planning Board, Massachusetts Land Court, case number 24, MISC 000730, parentheses, KTS. The chair declares that discussing this matter in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the board. A vote regarding whether to go into executive session will be taken, and votes may occur during this executive session. So at this time, Robin, should we close our public hearing, close our meeting for tonight and adjourn to
Well,
executive
are-
session?
We should motion
So
if
are
we're
you-
going to return to, if we're going to go to executive session and not return.
And not return to open meeting?
Yes, you can just indicate if you're going to come back afterwards or if you're going to adjourn from the executive
Correct.
session.
The board will not be coming back afterwards. We will adjourn this meeting from executive session. There will be no other public hearings after we close this off right now.
Okay. So moved, right?
Okay.
We have a motion.
perfect.
Motion to go to executive session. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rob?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
I am a yes. Steve?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
And Eric?
Yes.